So this video is going to be on leg day. Uh, Leg strength has always been one of my biggest weaknesses, and so this video is also a really good example of what happens when you kind of try and address the cause or the source of your weakness. And when you do that, you usually find something upstream that was blocked that you have to develop consciously to upregulate it, and then you'll find your skill level becomes average, it'll become normal, it'll become like what other people can do, right? So when you figure something out, a lot of times you think it'll give you like some extra ability or some supernatural ability, and it might, but really the things that you're trying to figure out, you're suboptimal at. And so when you fix them, it'll actually be like, oh, this feels just totally normal. And it like won't result in a sense of mania. It'll usually result in a sense of like, well, what do I do now? Who am I? And that's from it like being normal. And then you can kind of upregulate it a little bit, so you can become, you can practice the downstream activity in a way that you kind of become like a little bit better than average or whatever. But the interesting thing is that you just kind of, you have to figure out how stuff really works for real. And people that are just good at stuff, there's literally no physical kinesthetic impulse to explore where it comes from. They can't. So like if you're talented at something, like if you've always been really good at something, you'll never ever have the kinesthetic emotional motivation to really figure out what makes it work. There's just no attraction to it, there's no need for it, there's no lack, right? So it's like people that are kind of deficient in something, those are the ones that are also simultaneously like drawn to the origin or drawn to the source of a thing. So I'm just saying, anyway, I suck at legs. So a big misconception in legs, like this video like scramble your brain, if you get what I'm saying, and apply it broadly to different things. So a big misconception with legs is like, oh, I have to work super hard, and that's the way that my legs are going to get strong. And what you're looking for is flow state, right? So you're not looking for leg strength, you're looking for your legs to be listening for what is appropriate energetically. And so that looks like flow state, right? Which if you're doing it with other stuff, you can kind of feel anything where you're basically dancing. Like you're dancing and you're having to move with the appropriateness of movement. So like the stuff that you want to do for leg training is always with that. And so while you might go up and down a lot, if the legs are trained, if you're developing actual leg strength, it's actually looking for the timing where that stuff isn't difficult. And so learning to like see and sense and how to create those up and down situations, and how the legs stay attached to the movement the same way that dancers stay attached to the flow state or the inertia. And so you'll find in a lot of like martial arts stuff, the basic drills of like stepping up and back. But there's no conditioning that has to happen to the legs. the legs sense, the legs are there to kind of like sense and adhere to what you're doing to the energetic space at that low level. And that low level where the legs are is also inward. So it's this very, very deep down and up. And that's what most people call legs. But it's, legs are simultaneously an inward looking and a downward. Right, like to really understand any movement pattern or exercise, like you do have to understand the psychological ramifications of the body part and how it symbolically aligns with everything else that's going on. Right, because to get like correct physical alignment, you don't just exist in isolation, you exist in this big pattern. And so the legs, more so than trying to like force something to happen, you start noticing that you want them to sense the pattern, sense the movement pattern. And by that I just mean the inertia. Like what do I want my legs to do? I want them to sense the inertia of my body and help me, all of me, direct it down and up. And this, if you do this correctly, it'll be an inversion, it'll be a flip from driving with the legs and trying to get the legs to alter reality, which they can, like especially if they're sensitive to reality. But if you can get the inversion to happen to where, oh, now my legs are going to sense my inertia, I'm going to just drop my inertia and my legs will be surfing my inertia as I drop it. So as I let the water fall, my legs, along with everything else, can fall with, and then also encourage it to come back up. And so like a talented person who never had to figure this out just has for their entire life used their body to sense what their inertia is doing, and then just adhere to that. Just have the body adhere to the inertia, and then they just send it. You just send the inertia, and you're doing everything you can just to stay with it, stay with the decision, rather than enacting it. So like, the more people do training and exercises like that, where like, oh, I'm pushing, that's like training the opposite of flow state, which is potentially useful. Like, yeah, strength is cool, but you can definitely develop strength and get to high tension activities with the same mindfulness of the body is the body is just sticking to the inertia. So you could just let the inertia come to here, and the legs aren't holding you up, the legs are just adhering to the inertia. And then your ability to do all that develops very much like surfing skill or sailing, except that every point in your body is surfing, and then the body as a whole is also surfing, sailing. So as you get better at that, it looks looks like strength or whatever else. So most people are just doing that to do, like everyone's obviously doing it. You're using your body to sense your inertia. Okay, and then to different degrees and to different fractal like densities, to different depths. Is it just sensing the body as a as a as a five-star object, as a blob, as a presence, as a brain and organs, as a brain with folds, as a heart with spirals, blood vessels, as just kidney as balls, or kidney as if like fractal tubes. So you can sense the lungs, or you can sense the fractal down to the alveoli. You can sense the brain or into the folds, into the different subsections. So every level of surfing, you can surf each layer harder or more or less consciously, or start including the inner fractals of each of the organ systems. Which I guess you could say it's hard, but I mean it's not. It's like fundamentally it's not hard. Like you could totally scale this up and like, yeah, I want to get big and move a lot of mass and carry 50 pounds on me and like totally do that. But what people are doing when they're doing things successfully, so the difference between somebody who has athletic legs and somebody who has clumsy legs is the degree to which they're using their legs as a sense organ versus they want to use their legs as a driver. And the people who use the legs as a driver tend to be clumsy, but a lot like most people are normal, so they don't think about this and they do a lot of it naturally. A lot of people are just sensing the world with their leg and their bodies, and those are the people that just kind of like move normal. They don't really have to think about anything.